Okay, today we're going to look at some simple equations. But before we get into actually solving some of these, let me just get a better colour for my pen. Let's think of a few expressions. So we're going to define what's an expression, what are equations, and what are formulae. Okay, so let's look at an expression to begin with. If I have 1 plus x to the third, or if I have x squared plus 10x minus, that's meant to be an x, terrible x, minus 3, these are expressions. The reason they're expressions is they're not equated to anything. I'll show you what I mean by just now when I define an equation. So say I had x plus 4 equals 12. This is an equation. The expression is equated to something, in this case 12. 4x squared equals 9 is also an equation. Now, a formulae is basically a type of equation. So a equals pi r squared. This is a formula. This is the formula for the area of a circle, and the reason it's different from an equation is each of the unknowns are we know what they are. We can define them. That's the radius. That's the area. Whereas in the equation, x is a undefined quantity. Another example of formula would be S equals ut plus a half at squared. This is the formula for the speed of something. If you have the initial speed, the time that it's going to be travelling, and a is the acceleration. So that's another example of a formulae. So what we're going to be looking at is how to solve simple equations. So when we had 1 plus x power cubed, that's an expression. We can't solve that, but we can solve an equation. So 3x equals 12. We can solve that. It's quite simple. X, we want to have x on its own. Divide both sides by 3. That would be 4. Now, when we come to solve a simple equation, we're asking ourselves, we're trying to find out what the value of x is. And to do that, we need to get x on its own. So everything that's on this side of the equation has to be moved onto that side. And what you do to one side, you always do to the other side, so it's always equal. If we divide both sides by 3, we're not changing the value of x. You can think of it as a balance. And I can have, here's our x, and we can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 apples on this side, and we can have 3 apples on that side. If we take, the balance is equal, if we take away 3 of the apples here, we've still got our x here, and then we're if we take away 3 from this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, we're still left with this, but we're still left with the same equation. They're still equal. So when we do something to one side of an equation, we always do it to the other, whether that be taken away. In this case, this example here, we've divided both sides by 3. In this example, in this little picture representation of an equation, we've taken 3 away from that side and we take 3 away from that side. The x doesn't change. It still is x in both of these, but by doing the same to each side of the equation, we can find the value of x. Let's have another look. Look at another one. So this is x plus 5 equals 7. So again, think of it like a balance. This is our balance point. So we've got x and we've got 5 some things on this side and we've got 7 on this side. So if we were to take 5 away from here, and if we take 5 away from here, we're going to be left with x equals 2, and that's how we solve the equation. Let's try one that's a bit more challenging. Let's think of this. X over 2 equals 4 over 9. Now this looks more tricky, but we can just think of this as being a half times x equals 4 over 9. We want to get rid of this half or this 2 here. If we times this side by 2 and times this side by 2, we deal with that half. 2 times a half is 1, so we're just left with x. And then on this side we've got 2 times 4 is 8 ninths. Now that's how we deal with that one. So we're going to now look at some more challenging equations. Let's think of 4y squared equals 9. It's the same idea. Let's leave the y squared just now. We'll leave that there. Let's deal with the 4 to begin with. The same as before. We're going to divide this side by 4 and we divide this side by 4. So y squared is going to be 9 over 4. And now we're going to take the square root. Get this. So the square root is going to be 9 over 4, which is 3 halves. Now, let's think about this a bit more deeply. When you take the square root of something, when you're dealing with algebra, let's just think. To get y squared, we would have to times 3. So let's just look at this up here. So to get y squared, it's 3 over 2 times 3 over 2. And that gave us the 9 over 4. But this is also true. We can have y squared is equal to minus 3 over 2 times minus 3 over 2, which would also give us 9 over 4. So when we're solving an equation, we've had to take the square root. There's always going to be 2 solutions. It can be plus 3 over 2 or minus 3 over 2. And you should always, when you take a square root, always give the 2 solutions, the positive one and the negative one. I hope that helps.